Maxims. They're those little phrases and sayings people throw out to answer a question or try to impart some sort of wisdom. Here's some you've probably heard before related to motorcycles. Loud pipes save lives, ride like everyone's trying to kill you, dress for the slide, not for the ride, pee is stored in the balls. Now, we've all heard lots of these, but I asked you for your favorites a while back so that I could think about it, chew on them a little bit, and then bring them to you today in this video to destroy, more or less. No, we're just going to dissect them a little bit and then rank them by how useful and applicable they are. Now, I promise I'm going to jump right into it, but as I've learned with other videos I made that challenged popular narratives of some other motorcycle stuff, some of you might have an emotional attachment to a few of these. Maybe you've even said them sincerely in the past. Let me just ask you to set that attachment aside for a little bit because I'm not trying to personally attack you. I just think it's important to take a moment every once in a while to reconsider our ideas and values to ensure that they still hold up to modern scrutiny. Or you could do inevitably what some people always do, which is to downvote, leave a poorly thought out comment about how what I say is dangerous, and then go back to watching MC Rider videos. He seems like a great guy, just not my speed. Speaking of which, let's go. Got a $5 head? Get a $5 helmet. This saying's trying to convey the idea that you should get a quality helmet because your head's an important component for the body to be alive. I've always hated the framing of this around cost because price and safety are only loosely correlated. A more expensive helmet doesn't always indicate better impact resistance. I've also never seen a helmet that costs anywhere near $5, but I get that it's probably just an exaggeration trying to sound ludicrously low. States with helmet laws require that you wear a helmet that's DOT certified. So even the cheapest helmets have some sort of minimum safety standard. Are people saying this suggesting that a DOT helmet is insufficiently safe for somebody? If so, wouldn't it better to just say that you should get a Snell or ECE certified helmet? Is this $110 half helmet good because it's way more than $5? What about a Snell certified open face helmet? Is that better than a cheaper full face? The point of saying this is to try to convince people to prioritize helmet quality and safety. If you want to do that, you should come up with something that convinces people to wear a full face or Snell certified helmet. D for dog shit. Take it to the track. This is often a response to videos of people doing stunts or just driving fast or aggressively on public roads, as if indicating they feel it's unsafe to do that stuff outside of a controlled environment, which is what they imagine a track to be. This is not the video where I'm going to wade into whether or not it's ethical to stunt or whatever on public roads. That's going to have to be its own thing. But let's frame this from the lens of somebody who thinks that it's fine because that's the intended audience. The track costs money, and the closest one might be hours away from you. So that would probably mean that pragmatically, a track isn't going to happen for lots of people very often. Also, many tracks have conduct standards that prohibit wheelies and stunting for the safety of other people blazing by you at high speed. My suggestion if you are trying to convince somebody to change their behavior on public roads is to maybe focus on how the consequences of their actions can affect other people. See, I guess? Never ride faster than your guardian angel can fly. This is a metaphysical safety warning, I guess. I'd never heard this before asking around, but I wasn't really raised around religion at all, so maybe it's more common in those spaces. I never considered that angels had speed limitations, so I did what any normal person does and Googled it. The results of that Google search made me feel like it wasn't such a dumb question because there was a surprising amount of discussion on the topic. It's not even a modern debate because I actually found what must be the most accurate answer from a guy that lived over 700 years ago. That's right, the person considered the most trusted source for many Catholic philosophical questions. The man, the myth, the legend, Thomas motherfucking Aquinas actually answered this question. In summary, he said they don't necessarily fly really fast, but they can teleport if they want. Since modern motorcycle engineering hasn't even been able to get a motorcycle to achieve light speed, let alone teleportation, I think you're good to go whatever speed you want if all you're worried about is ensuring a guardian angel can reach you. So obviously this is an F. Wait, does that mean that if you crash your bike and die, that your guardian angel just literally sat back and watched it happen? Dress for the slide, not for the ride. I more or less did a whole video on this, so I'm not going to rehash the specifics. But I'll just say that I think this phrase has been kind of beaten to death. It's so old and tired that in a name recognition poll, it would beat out Donald Trump and Joe Biden. If you want to convince people to wear more gear, you're better off listing the gear that they should wear and why than pulling this old chestnut out. D-. Also, go watch that video. It's really good. There are old bikers and there are bold bikers, but there are no old, bold bikers. The implication of the statement is that in order to keep riding and survive on a motorcycle, you can't be bold, which I think is a stand-in for driving recklessly or something to that effect. This quote is actually attributed to Craig Knievel, better known as the legendary stuntman Evel Knievel, although I couldn't find the actual source or context of him saying it. Knievel was actually a massive supporter of early motorcycle helmet use and was a champion of mandatory helmet laws. Now, I would argue that if you were a stuntman, someone who regularly attempted feats that were well beyond the capability or desires of the normal population, you should absolutely be wearing protective gear unless you legitimately are a nihilist and don't care about being alive, dead, or just in large amounts of pain. I think Knievel misattributed cause and effect. It's not that in order to survive into old age you have to have a cautious and safety-first attitude. It's just that as we age, we generally thrill-seek less due to changes in our body chemistry and hormones. They aren't super common, but I've seen plenty of older dudes squidding around in their 1989 Kawasaki Ninja 600Rs. Shit, with the average age of my audience well below mine, some of you fuckers might consider me to be an old biker. Fuck you, by the way, if you do. Fuck it. Ride like everyone's trying to kill you. This riding philosophy wants to impart that anything and everything should be seen as an active threat to your safety when you're riding, and so you should ride in such a way to account for that. Let's establish first that this is absolutely not true, and in fact quite the opposite. Most drivers have zero incentives to want to try to kill you. Causing you harm means that they might need to pay out of their own pocket for damages to your property or your body, and often they'll even have to pay for their own broken shit through insurance deductibles and premiums. It's possible they could even go to jail for hurting you, which means they could lose their job and send their life into a downward spiral that basically is impossible to get out of. Riding in a state of constant fear like this seems like it would reduce anyone's desire to ride at all, not to mention potentially impact your ability to make calm, rational decisions behind the handlebars. Almost like the way that we train cops to see everything as a weapon.
I don't have a weapon!
That's a weapon.
This is a bucket!
No, that's a weapon.
This
right there.
is a clamper for picking up garbage, sir.
Put it down, I'm telling you, I'm threatened by it.
It's not a weapon.
Pew, 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 pew. That's a spoiler for a video I'm making later. In discussions, it seems like people who preach this don't actually take it literally, which just leads me to wonder why use such dramatic language. Instead of saying this, maybe emphasize that motorcycles require vigilance because of the increased lethality of any collision with other vehicles. I guess a C. You start the game with a full pot of luck and an empty pot of experience. The object is to fill the pot of experience before you empty the pot of luck. This is one of the few safety-focused maxims that point to the idea that there is risk to motorcycles, but expertise, aka experience, can mitigate these factors. Although I don't subscribe to the idea that luck as a concept exists as it's described in the saying, like when you jump on your bike, there's no metaphysical dice that's cast to determine if you're going to get home safely or not. Obviously, some people are more fortunate than others. A new rider will make riding mistakes, and they can be lucky in that other people might be able to make up for their lack of skills and avoid hitting them if they, say, pull out in front of a car they didn't see. The longer you ride in seat time, not ownership of the motorcycle, will definitely help you gain experience so you can use to make better decisions in the future. I would take it a step further and say that testing the boundaries of your riding skill and your motorcycle accelerate this process. Experience comes from taking risks, and just getting on the bike is taking a risk that will pay off with experience. Overall, I think this delivers a message, avoids being overly preachy, and stays pretty true to reality. So it will be first in the A tier. Okay, so there's a whole pile of philosophical maxims around how motorcycles improve mental and spiritual health. As I mentioned, I'm not religious, so I don't really have an opinion on the spiritual stuff, but I want to touch on the mental health pieces. Here's some examples for reference. 4 wheels to move the body, 2 to move the soul. You never see a motorcycle parked outside of a psychiatrist's office. Happiness isn't around the corner, it's in the corner. Live to ride, ride to live. Etc., etc., etc. Shit like that. Let's just back it up a bit and talk about the baseline truths of human physiology that make these statements feel true to those who say it. I'm not going to aim too hard from a video that I'll get around to making someday, but let's just simplify it and say that riding a motorcycle, specifically the actions that create excitement such as rolling on the throttle or getting out into nature and seeing interesting things, can release endorphins. Endorphins have an analgesic effect. Yeah, I said anal. Laugh it out. Okay. Anyway, analgesics are chemicals that can reduce the feeling of pain and improve mood. Ibuprofen is a common household analgesic I'm sure you have lying around. I know that some of you are new to this word. Are we past the funny part? No? Okay, cool. This is one of several reasons why people get a positive association with motorcycles and can feel as if they're a miracle cure for a variety of ailments. But for the most part, That effect ends when you hop off the bike. When you go to work for 8 hours, hang out with your friends or your family, whatever else you do in the actual majority of your life. Some people even go so far as to say that a motorcycle can cure depression. No, it can't. It can be something that is part of other things you can do to help reduce the effects of depression. You know what helps these conditions a lot more than a motorcycle? Exercise, sleeping well, any number of medications that can be prescribed by a doctor. Look, just be wary of anybody that holds up one thing as the key to happiness in life. These are usually people that either don't experience the true depths of human suffering that conditions like depression, bipolar disorder, suicidal thoughts, or dementia create, or they're just fucking grifters looking to sell you something. When in doubt, throttle out. This is the one I'm most prepared to take heat on. The advice here is that if you aren't sure what to do in a given situation on a motorcycle, you should accelerate. I see this applied to lots of situations. But to me, it feels like it's usually when the person saying it doesn't really fully grok the entirety of the circumstances and is just trying to give the best guess answer. The nugget of truth to this maxim is something that my MSF instructor burned into my brain almost 20 years ago, which is that for a motorcycle, speed equals stability. Motorcycles are amazing in their ability to keep themselves stable due to the physics that they are engineered to take advantage of. What's unintuitive and interesting about this advice is that it generally flies in the face of most people's natural inclination to slow down during a hectic situation. My frustration with this maxim is that often the people that are giving it can't explain why it's the correct answer to the question. I ran into this a lot with my video on tank slappers, or more precisely, front end wobble. It was a complex topic. And the answer I saw so many times in forums and Reddit threads for saving yourself from a tank slapper was throttle out. But that didn't actually turn out to be the best advice, and it can possibly make that situation worse. Throttle out is the answer to many questions where motorcycle stability is the issue. Feeling like you're going to fall over, making a low speed turn, accelerate and lean the bike more. Going over some rough terrain that might upset your bike's stability, like train tracks or grooves in the road, go faster, let the bike's physics handle it. But even in those types of situations, its universality falls apart pretty quick. Want to ride your street bike a mile down a gravel road? Take it slow. Going over some weird construction areas with metal plates and bumpy roads? Just take it down a bit. There are millions of small situations on motorcycles where the best answer is more nuanced. So, although this is a catchy statement, I would hope that before any of you throw it out there, take a moment to consider the question being asked and be sure it's unlikely to make things worse. You know, all that said, it's probably a B. Loud pipes save lives. No, they don't, and we all look dumber when you say it. Okay, I'm going to take it seriously. People who say this think that if they have a loud exhaust, it will help notify people of their existence, which makes other people less likely to hit them. There are a lot of cogent arguments that completely dismantle this idea, but I'm just going to mention that most people don't hear a loud-ass exhaust until you're in front of them, and they probably see you at that point. There is just zero data that exists to support this as a safety thing. Look, if you like a loud exhaust because it makes you feel good, like you got a fast bike, cool. Just own that. The real truth is that this phrase is just Harley Rider copium for when somebody tells them that their bike is obnoxiously loud, while still being slow as shit.
Is it true you think that loud pipes help keep things safe and prevent accidents, save lives?
I know loud pipes help because I got cut off on the freeway last week coming to work downtown. A woman riding along next to me in the right lane, talking on her cell phone, didn't see me, and she started moving over into my lane. I wrapped the pipes, and that made her jump up and look, and then she moved back over. This isn't an obnoxious sounding bike, but I can make it bark if I want. That was faster than reaching for the horn, actually. I think most people think that loud pipes save life, just like I can hear cars coming up behind me with louder pipes or trucks. The engines are louder. I can hear that engine noise coming up. But most bikers like to hear their motor. It's a sweet sound. You don't see a radio on my bike. I'd rather listen to my motor than the radio.
Fucking F. Everyone crashes. Some get back on, some don't, some can't. This is another saying which the goal largely seems to convey the idea that motorcycles are dangerous. On its face, I do believe that this is mostly true. However, the concept of what qualifies as a crash is left unspecific as to allow you to invoke the idea that everyone's going to smash head-on into a car at some point, and whether or not they survive is going to be a coin flip. The reality is that many people's accidents are just going to be small, low speed, mostly embarrassing more than anything, and less likely to mangle your body than they are to just break fairings and scuff chrome. The wisdom that feels true to me here is that After any accident, you're probably going to reevaluate your priorities to confirm that riding a motorcycle is still something that's important to you. I personally know many people that rode up until their first real crash. People that had motorcycles for years. People that learned to do stunts. People that loved riding. Decided to sell what was left of their bikes and move on. If you're going to say this to people just getting into motorcycles, I think it's best used in a non-judgmental, more matter-of-fact tone, emphasizing that motorcycles have a learning curve that inherently involves bodily risk, and that it's okay to decide that it's no longer for you at some point in your life, post-crash or otherwise. This is S-tier advice. Okay, I was going to be done, but since we're kind of doing a grab bag anyway, and it's fucking 2020, the most insane year that's ever existed, and it's October, and it's an election year, and I'm in fucking America, and everything is on fire, I want to do one bonus one. Voting's a waste of time, because my vote doesn't matter. Look, I get that many people just don't give enough of a shit to make time for politics in their life, and you know what? I think you are probably a happier, more fulfilled person for that. But there is also the other end, where you can take the doomer pill and feel like voting is just a pointless endeavor, or maybe even that it reinforces a system that you fucking hate. National elections, like the presidency, get an overwhelming amount of attention, but really it is the worst reason to get out and vote. If you don't live in a swing state, that is where the voting population doesn't clearly vote one way or another, your vote for presidency doesn't really matter. But that's the thing that's going to affect your life the least anyway. If you're not engaged in your political process, you probably don't realize how many local elections and laws are on the same ballot that will directly affect your life, and your vote or a handful of other votes do matter. Legalizing weed recreationally was on our ballot in 2016, and we voted it in, and it's dramatically improved people's lives here. And guess what? It's on a lot of ballots this year as well. So you know, I have partaken in weed, but I had never done it prior to 2016. And it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It really isn't a big deal. It's better than alcohol. So you should go vote for those things. And then, you know, while you're already doing it, you may as well take 2 seconds to fucking tick a box at the national level. Voting is the most direct way to make changes to our society. Well, okay. Technically, there are more direct ways, but I just finished a book on the French Revolution, and there's a reason people refer to that time as the Terror and not something positive like Reconstruction or the Enlightenment. I think I hit all the major important ones, so I hope you had fun pedantically nitpicking all this colloquial wisdom we've heard. Since it seems appropriate, I'll leave you with my favorite quote about motorcycles, which is from the semi-retired motorcycle racer and mechanic, Guy Martin, which I don't really think requires much deep analysis to understand. When speaking about why he races motorcycles, the reason I do it is because if you do it wrong, it will kill you. If you think it's too dangerous, then go home and cut your lawn and leave us to it. Fuck, I've been doing a terrible job self-promoting, but I've got a personal goal. I'm trying to accelerate some growth and get to 10,000 subscribers before 2021. It's a stretch. I'm probably not going to get there, but if you can subscribe, like this video, like my other videos, if you enjoy them, you know, don't fucking just do it. Do it if you enjoy them. But if you can share them anywhere, if you've got a friend or a family member that's like a little bit into motorcycles or thinking about getting into motorcycles, send them one of my videos that you think they'd enjoy. Post it on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, those little tiny there's all these motorcycle forums and stuff that I don't use, but you might be in, a bunch of you I know are in. Those help a lot. People seem to love me there. I know some of you have said you don't do any of that stuff. That's fine. I don't know how you got to me, to be honest. That's what I find kind of amazing, but that's fine. You can also support me on Patreon and check out my Instagram where I only post fun things and not mean things, or you can take up my Twitter where I only scream into the void. Yeah, ride fast, take chances.